Hello everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another live stream here at my YouTube channel. Tonight I'm going to be doing some no-line watercoloring, and I'm going to use an image from the greeting farm, and I'm also going to do a shadow study. So if you've ever been curious about how to do no-line watercoloring, this will be the video for you. I have like fuzz on my lip or something. It's probably cat fur, like attaching to my lip gloss. Anyway, so welcome. We're going to jump right into it. So here is the stamp set. Oh, it's so cute. It is called Storybook Collection 1. And I think you've got like a couple different storybook or stories that you can kind of put together with this. You've got Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You've got the different beds and the different sizes. You have Goldilocks. You even have a little chair for her to be in. So you've got some different chairs. And then down here, you've got Red Riding Hood. So you've got Red Riding Hood and the wolf, and then grandma in her bed. I just think it's so adorable. It's amazing. I've linked it down below if you're interested in getting this entire great big giant stamp set. It's so adorable. I love it. So I'm going to focus on this image right here. I thought it would be nice. It would be a nice example of no-line watercoloring because there's lots of big open space. So there's lots we can do with it. All right, let's get this open. I'm using hot press watercolor paper today. I've chosen this watercolor paper specifically because I'm doing no-line watercoloring. Hot press watercolor paper in general is much smoother than cold press. It almost has like a regular smooth cardstock texture, and it really lends itself to painting because if you have more texture on your paper, sometimes the very smooth lines that you're trying to achieve with no-line watercoloring, sometimes that can get hidden by the texture. So using a smooth cardstock is great for this. Now, if you don't have a hot press watercolor paper, but you do have something like Strathmore Bristol paper or just Bristol paper in general, that is a multimedia paper and you can use it with watercolor and it works well for no-line watercoloring also. So, right, take this out. It's very smooth. You'll be able to tell how smooth it is once I get going here. Like there's no texture. It's beautiful. So, no-line watercoloring, you might be, if you've never seen it before or you're unfamiliar, you might be saying, what is this? Like, what is it? The whole point of no-line watercolor or no-line coloring in general is you have a stamped image that generally you would stamp with a dark ink color. And then the lines of that image would, you'd be able to color within those lines and that's what would show. With no-line watercoloring, you use a lighter ink color, so light to the point that once you color it, the stamped lines sort of disappear. So you are creating the lines on the image itself. I like to use distress ink for no-line watercoloring. It just works so well and it's my favorite. You can use regular watercolor if you'd like, but I really like distress. I like to use antique linen distress ink because I'm going to be painting with distress inks as well, and distress inks reactivate with water. It works really well for this. Over in the chat, Linda Fisher is saying, my stamp lines never seem to disappear. It might be, like sometimes that happens to me too. So, but if you're using like a distress ink, a lot of times it usually just means you could probably make the line disappear if you put like a darker color up next to it. And that might make more sense as we get going here. Okay, so that's pretty good. In fact, it's pretty dark. I'm not going to stamp it again, but I am going to be doing a shadow study today. So I'm going to get another piece of cardstock. So there is that image. So a shadow study is just to help you figure out where the shadows are going to be on your image, right? So a shadow study gives you an opportunity to figure out where you want your shadows to be. Now, the easiest way to add shading to images like this is to just have everything get a little bit darker right on each line. Kind of like the light is shining directly down on the images, or on the, I should say, on the bears. You could do it that way, but I find it's a little bit more fun and a little bit more of a challenge in my head if I decide to have the light coming from a certain angle. So I think it'd be kind of nice. Let's have the light come from this way. We're gonna have the light coming that way. So that means that this side of each kind of image or whatever would be the most light. All right, so that gives me an idea, like, okay, so what is underneath? I had like a crumb or something underneath there. Okay, so this tells me I'm gonna have a little more shading, like on that side of his nose. And I'm gonna have more shading, like coming on the side of his face and up to his ear. There might even be just a little bit of shading right here. The nose would be more shaded. I'm going to have more shading on this arm. In fact, with the mama bear right here, it's probably putting most of Papa Bear in shade, right? So I'm going to just have it be, we'll just have some little areas where it's peeking out. But for the most part, this is going to all be in shadow on this side. Okay. Have a little bit of shading right there. And on this arm. And on Baby Bear's clothing. I think there'd probably be a little bit of a shadow right there on the side of his head. Let's see here. And even though this is going to all be in shade over here, I am going to really emphasize the edge. And this is like a really rough shading, I'm just telling you. Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm adding shadow to everything. There'd also be a little bit of shadow right here. And under Papa Bear's chin. Okay, maybe a little bit of shadow right there. I'll put a little bit of shadow right on the ears. Okay. Put a little bit of shading on Mama's nose. And we'll have a shadow on her head and ears. All right, and then we have the apron right here. Just a little bit of shadow right underneath, but there will be more shadow like on the side of her body right here, including from her hand. There'll be just a little more shading on the bottom portion of her hand. Okay. Alrighty, got a little shadow from her little bow and also her little curly cue on her hair. All right, maybe a little bit of shadow right there. Okay, I think we're getting there. Probably a little shadow on the Baby Bear's hair and ear. And then also right under the chin. Okay, I think this is giving me a pretty good outline. Back in here, it'd be completely dark because Mama Bear would be blocking it. And probably her whole arm would be too. It's looking a little messy, but I think, you know, with color, a lot of it will come together. Okay. I feel like I need to just go ahead and fill in this shadow because it, in fact, I feel like it's probably would be more like that. Okay. I'm revising my shadows right here. Okay. All right. So now when I go to paint the actual image, this is going to tell me, okay, I've got to have a lot of contrast on these shadows to make sure that it looks like it's shaded. And this is also going to help create the lines on the no line watercoloring. All right, so I'm just going to have these on screen side by side. When I do no line watercoloring, I have just like a plastic palette over here, and I use Distress Ink mini cubes. You could also just use the re-inkers, you know, just put a little tiny droplet of color on your palette. Yeah, I think Rusty Hinge would be a good color to start with, because then that leaves us lots of room to start to darken it up and to get those edges and lines. And this is going to be really easy to start with because all three bears are the same color. I've got a size 2 and a size 4 Escoda. I'm going to start with the size 2. This is when I'm going to tell editing Christina, when I do the editor replay, to go back and show the difference between this one with high contrast versus the version maybe like a half hour ago before I started adding the ground espresso, because I think that is really telling between adding more contrast and not. could do better is over on this side at the lightest, the line is still there. You can still see it. So I think to fix that, I would maybe come in with just a little bit of one of the other colors. And we're just going to soften this line a little bit to try to make it fade a little bit more into the painting. See how that fixed that just a little bit and made the stamped line go away? So I'm going to do that for these other areas just to see if I can get that to disappear a little bit. Oh, and I also need to get Papa Bear's shoulder right there. Is that a shoulder? Yeah, that is. All right, and then side of her leg, kind of her rump over here on the side. And also her back right here. So it still reads very light, and the light source is coming from that side, but the line is more defined now. Can I just say, I didn't mean to do this, but I made Baby Bear's face quite a bit lighter, and I really love it. Makes him stand out and makes him look a little bit younger. Ta-da! All right, so here's the finished image. Love how it turned out. I didn't mean to make Baby Bear's face lighter, but it just worked and it happened, and I'm running with it because it looks so fun. Some people in the comments said you could just slap a greeting on that and it's a card. I completely agree, and I might do that. I might just put the little greeting down here that says "You're just right," and then, you know, maybe die cut that out so it fits onto a 5x7 card or something. I think that could be really, really cute. So thanks so much for watching. If you would like to see all of the no-line watercoloring in real time with commentary from me, explanations of why I did what I did, I encourage you to go watch the full-length replay of this live stream. But if you're just here for the edited version, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in another video very soon.